for joining us for our final session of By Design, our vendor education series. This has been a wonderful opportunity for us to engage diverse business owners around educational topics that we felt are important as we try to help increase our supplier diversity base here in Wichita. The Chamber over the last year has gotten more engaged in the conversations, and we're extremely happy to be able to partner with entities such as the Hispanic Chamber, the Black Chamber, the CREATE Campaign, and Kansas Business Services to provide this great information. So one of the things that I oversee in my position as Director of Community Advancement is our diversity, equity, and inclusion work, but also our talent work, which some of the things that we do from the Chamber perspective often blur the lines between DEI and talent. And this is something that we're extremely happy about because we've been able to engage so many different business owners throughout these sessions. And tonight is no exception. We've got Chevis Rebstock, the Chamber's Manager of Business Member Relations, one of my colleagues, who we're excited for what he's going to bring for you today. Chevis has a wealth of knowledge when it comes to diverse sales and customer service. He's been a great addition to the Chamber, not just by what he's been able to do with members and how he's been able to increase some of our members' connections to the Chamber. He is a golf ringer. If you need a ringer, you can call Chevis. Chevis has helped establish the Chamber's golf reputation immensely since he's joined us in doing so. So we all know, we thank you for participating, and you all noticed that this event was free. These opportunities that's only because of people like our great sponsors, Evergy, Spirit Aerosystems, Coke, Cargill, and Cox. Without companies like that, opportunities like this we would not be able, from a Chamber perspective, to provide these types of opportunities. So I'd like to thank our sponsors for participating and supporting our efforts in diversity, equity, and inclusion. So next, I'm going to present to you our featured presentation for today from Mr. Chevis Rebstock. Chevis, take it away, sir.
All righty. Well, thank you very much, Jonathan, for the introduction, and thank you all for being here today. I was very excited about getting tapped on the shoulder for this presentation. When I received the email from Jonathan and Gary, it's like, oh yeah, absolutely. This would be a great opportunity. It's one of those things that, you might consider networking as one of those, known, oh, I know how to do this, or that's pretty straightforward, but there's some tips and tricks that I've picked up along the way, outside of just common sense aspects that I'd like to share with everyone. So Jonathan, let's go ahead and move that slide over, please. Let's go 2 more. All righty. So I hope probably most of you have heard the term, people do business with those they know, like, and trust. I know this gets tossed around quite a bit, but unless you found such a unique product or service that you're the only one in town offering this, you have to get your business out and network. Gone are the days that you can just open up shop on Main Street and have people walk by or stop in or ride a horse, whatever you want to look at. You have to get your business out and network. There's a few exceptions. I would look at like restaurants a little bit, and also some of the big box like Target, Cabela's, things like that. You don't see them networking in the community a whole lot in some capacity. And I'll get to that in a little bit. But for most everyone on the call and what our primary membership base looks like, you have to network. I mentioned restaurants. How many times have you pulled up Yelp or Google and looked at reviews before you choose a restaurant? Same thing with networking and people choosing your business. Again, they are going to choose your business based on if they know you, like you, and trust you. It's just kind of a common theme as to what our society has gone to right now. So overall, my approach to networking is to stay top of mind. So when others need a product or service that we offer, or if they have someone that they're looking for something that we offer, we're top of mind and they provide the referral. That's how most businesses should approach networking. Hope that makes sense. So Jonathan, slide please. So in the words of Ron Burgundy, networking is kind of a big deal. I don't think he exactly said networking's a big deal, but it is. Jonathan, one more slide, sir. All right, so now we're going to talk about some general strategies and approaches when it comes to networking. There's a few differences between one-on-one events, like say if I'm going out to lunch with Brent, or if I'm going to a larger networking conference or something like that. But for the most part, everything I'm going to talk about tonight is all relative. It goes either way. There's a few differences I'll mention, but just keep that in mind. Networking is networking. So Jonathan, next slide, sir. So first things first, prior to the meeting, get your mindset right. Positive mindset and lose the unnecessary pressure. A lot of times we might put up barriers in our head of, oh, I have a fear or lack of confidence, or I'm afraid of asking the wrong question, whatever the case may be. These barriers are in our heads and they're easy to overcome. All you need to do is just put a little planning, a little bit of practice, and you're able to do so. Jonathan, slide, please. So what I want everyone to consider when they're approaching a networking event, set some goals. So what I like to do, depending on the size event, say if it's a 1 million cups event, or any of our scrambler type mingles, I set a goal of usually making 2 new connections. I'm not making a goal of, hey, I want to talk to every single person in this room. That's unattainable. If you did that and say there's 60 people in the room and you only had an hour, okay, that's a minute with every person plus transitions and reintroductions. You're not going to get anything out of that event. You're going to pass out a lot of cards, but you're not going to be very effective. So I set my goals very attainable. I'm sure we've all heard of the whole SMART goal system, and that's what I do. Depending on the size, it's 2 new contacts. Each interaction, I want to have a relevant and interesting conversation. You make a few new conversations. Again, I'm not trying to hit everyone. If I hit 5, great. You kind of stay that 5 to 10 minute window or so. If you're really having a great conversation, maybe a little bit longer, but find a way to, hey, it's been a great conversation. I'd like to go introduce or go talk to some other people. And we'll talk about how to exit some of those interactions in a little bit. Sometimes you actually have access to an attendee list before the actual event. I've been to several conferences where I've been able to get one of the event organizers to send me a list of who all is speaking, or even an attendee list. If you have some time, do a little bit of research on, okay, hey, this is what this company is. We've been trying to make a connection with them. There's a perfect opportunity in between a breakout session or even just an event. If you know that person that you're trying to do business with their company is in the audience somewhere, hey, it's something to look out for. Anything that helps give you an edge, take advantage of it. So once you've prepped for it, how else do you approach networking? So during the event itself, approach new people. Too many times I see where someone will come into a networking session or an event and they, hey, I see my best friend over there. And they cling to their best friend and never leave their arm. What was the point of coming to a networking event? Did you meet anyone new? Or did you just have a conversation with your friend that you could have had over drinks or bonfire, fire pit in the backyard, whatever the case may be? You're there to make new connections. So approach new people. Don't cling to a familiar face. If you need that person to kind of help bridge that gap, hey, I'd like to go meet this person. You want to go over there with me? Hey, if you need a peer to do that, to make that connection with, hey, go for it. But try to make new connections. So what I like to do is when I first arrive, and I would encourage you all to do this, make an initial lap. If there's someone that you recognize, hey, you can say hi. Maybe that kind of gets you warmed up a little bit. It's just like speaking. If you're doing a public speech, usually it's that first 20 seconds, 30 seconds or so that are the roughest. Once you kind of get going, hey, you're good. So do the approach, do a lap, find someone. If you don't recognize anyone in the crowd, hey, find someone standing by themselves. You'll make their day by actually talking to them and not letting them stand like a beanpole by the side. But also if that means then you take that connection that you've just met and you guys go find a group, perfect. It works great. It's also, I've found where if you're the connector in some of those networking sessions or interactions, that puts you in a great advantage. So say you've already talked to the people that are standing by themselves and you want to go into that group. Well, how do you do that? Oftentimes in true networking events, if you approach a group and are kind of standing off the outside a little bit, if the people are friendly and they're doing it right, someone will introduce or turn to you and, hey, come on and join our group. That's fine. You'll see this a lot. It might be a little intimidating the first time you try it, but just do it. I mean, the worst that happens is you stand there a little bit, just kind of off the outside, and you hear some of the conversation. Most times, more often than not, someone will acknowledge you, bring you into the conversation. And what I like to do is, hey, this is, if you know their name or not, introduce them to the group real fast. Hey, this is what our group's talking about right now. You're welcome to join the conversation. Some type of a tie into that. And that usually goes over very well. Most people will do that, you'll find. Like I said, it's sometimes you might think that you're going to be standing there a little bit. Don't worry about it. Again, most of the barriers when we approach networking are all in our head. So say you've talked with this group a little bit and you want to move on to the next group, say you only have 30 minutes or so. There's different ways of doing that. So there's three that I like to do is, if you need to, say you're on a time limit, I have really enjoyed the conversation that we've had in here. There's another person I'd like to go say hi to, or hey, I see someone I want to go say hi to, or hey, there's a connection over there I know I want to make before our end of the session. Do you mind? It's been great talking with you. Please excuse me. You can always use the, hey, I need a drink, restroom, whatever the case may be. Most people understand you're at a networking event. It's understood to be able to move around. All righty. So once you're actually in that conversation, I want you to don't underestimate the power of small talk. A lot of times we think small talk is just the, hey, how's the weather? And that's fine. But small talk is what makes the conversations meaningful. If you jump right into business, sometimes that's going to look too salesy. You have to kind of warm that other person up. Small talk is a good thing. Again, I'd caution you about jumping right into business, but if you have a transition along the lines of something like, yeah, I've heard of your organization before, but I'm not terribly familiar. Can you tell me a little bit more about yourself or what you do? That will get people to open up a little bit. Again, don't come off too salesy, but there's ways of doing that. Some approaches that I like to take with a few open-ended questions. What brings you here today? It's a staple question. Sometimes you get the smart aleck response of a car or a bus or a bike. And I've heard those before, and that's fine. It's kind of it's a fun comedic relief, but that at least gets you to understand why this other person is at this event. It might be for networking. They might have a relation to one of the speakers, whatever the case may be. That is valuable information that you can gain and kind of form that conversation around that. Another one, is there a particular hobby or interest that you enjoy? People love talking about themselves. They might like to golf. Jonathan mentioned that I enjoy golf. Anytime I can get out on the golf course, I will gladly take that meeting if my schedule allows, but golf is one of my hobbies. I enjoy talking about it, enjoy talking about different golf courses, things of that nature. People enjoy talking about themselves. Another good question, what's kept you sane during 2020? I think we can all relate to this one because it's been a year, has it not? So when people are opening up and talking about themselves, it's more warm, it's a more friendly conversation, and that kind of leads you back into how you can talk about business. From there, transition or steer the conversation to work topics. The key is here, though, let the other person talk and actively listen to what they're saying. Again, let the other person talk and actually listen to what they're saying. Ideally, if you want to put a rule of thumb to this, you could kind of think about, hey, this other person's going to talk for 60% of the equation, and then I'm going to talk for 40%. That's perfectly fine. Because again, you're not there to talk about yourself. You're there to gain information. Jonathan, go ahead and turn that slide, please. So I want everyone to think about relationships as a bank account. Think of networking also as a relationship and a piggy bank. You cannot withdraw anything before you invest. You also can't ask more of your relationship than you've deposited. This can be applied to area of life, but especially business and networking. Sure, your contact might help and open up a little bit, but at what cost to the long-term relationship if that's how you start that relationship? So again, think of networking and relationships as a piggy bank. Okay, Jonathan, slide. All righty. Again, Cannot withdraw more than a relationship that you've already invested. So what does it mean? How do you apply that? So start with the mindset of what can I do to help this person? What connections do I have in my Rolodex, if there is such a thing as a Rolodex anymore? And what referrals or leads can I share with that person? If you approach the conversations with this mindset, again, it's going to be a more warm and fuzzy conversation. It's also not going to come across as you're trying to take advantage of them or pitch them something right off the bat. Too many inefficient networkers view these interactions through the lens of how can this person help me? It's all backwards. You're not going to have a good long-term benefit. If they ask how they can help you, sure, that's great. It could help, but don't let this be your springboard and starting point. I want you to have the mindset of build it before you need it. Again, more often than not, you'll not be able to make an ask of a new connection right from the start. Let the first time be the introduction, and then have follow-up conversations over coffee, lunch, drinks, a second more in-depth conversation, or even a round of golf out on the golf course. Again, who doesn't like that? Excuse me. As your network grows, you'll be able to offer more referrals to those that you newly meet. Plus, that leads to more relationship capital that you can add to your piggy bank right from the start. So we've already kind of talked about how to move on a little bit to other discussions, groups, and individuals. But remember, the goal is to make meaningful connections. You don't want to spend the entire time talking with the same group or individual. And when it's time to move on, here's a couple outs. Again, I mentioned it's a pleasure talking with you. I'd love to continue the conversation over coffee, lunch, etc. Exchange contacts and move on. If you need to use the drink or the restroom. There's a couple times where I've been faced with, okay, I've got a clinger. I think we've all heard that term before in different contexts, but there's been times where, okay, how do you lose this person? I'm done talking with you. That we've, not to be rude or anything, but we've exacerbated the conversation. I want to move on. Sometimes I've had to use this a few times, but sometimes you kind of either take one for the team or someone that, hey, there's someone over here I'd really like to introduce you to. Let me go take you over there and maybe buy them a drink afterwards. But it gets you away from that person. It doesn't happen very often, and that's very rare. And there's other ways out of that, but that's always like kind of your last resort if you need to get out of a conversation. Again, people are at networking events to make new connections. Most people understand that you want to go meet other people. 99% of the time, that's perfectly fine. Leave the group and go interact with someone else. I also want to share a couple pointers of what not to do at a networking event. So, Jonathan, go ahead and slide. In the words of Oprah, instead of you get a car, everyone gets a business card. Do not be this person that comes with 100 business cards with the goal of handing out all 100 business cards. It doesn't work. Don't play the game of how many business cards can you hand out. You'll hear people talk about sometimes how it's almost a game to them. It doesn't work. Circle back to them in about a month or so and see how many of those connections actually worked out for them. Sure, have your cards ready and easily accessible, but this is not adult trick-or-treating. Keep your cards to yourself unless someone asks for one. If you've made a really good connection, I know some people that are very astute business people that they will play it off that they don't have cards and then they only give cards out on a very case-by-case basis. That's fine. I think we're all at that situation and point where we can give cards, but not like candy. Jonathan? Some other things are networking detractors to keep in mind during an event. Darting with your eyes around the room. How many times we've been talking with someone, I'm gonna try and kind of scoot in a little bit. How many times we've been trying to talk to someone and this is what it looks like as you're having that conversation? Is that distracting? Absolutely. What does that, think of like, what does that make that other person feel? Like how engaged do you think that they are going to be with your conversation if it looks like you're trying to find the next person to talk to, or, hey, who's a bigger fish in this pond, or whatever you want to look at. If you're talking to someone, pay them respect, focus on them. Don't lock eyes 100% of the time because that's also odd. But don't be looking for the next opportunity to leave that conversation. Not attentively listening. Again, kind of goes back with the last thing, but there's a thing of You're listening and then you're actively listening. If all you're doing is listening to what they're saying, trying to think of your next response, that's not really listening. And you're not really going to gain a whole lot of what they're actually talking about, what their business can do, and how you can possibly help them. Actually listen to what they're saying. What do you do after the event? Follow up. I'm sure we've all heard this, follow up or fail. Ideally, if you can follow up in a timely manner, and ideally, if you can be the first one to actually send them some type of a thank you or an email, that's going to be better. It's a little bit different if you take a large scale event and a one-on-one. Again, if I'm doing lunch with Brent, I'll shoot him a quick email. I might write him a thank you card, depending on how the conversation goes. Typically, if it's a one-on-one conversation and it's not like a someone I've already met with several times, I will write a handwritten thank you card. I've got a giant stack in my desk. I have a stack at my house. I used to probably write 10 thank you cards a week. It's a good habit to get into. People like seeing their name on stuff. It's a different feeling if you're opening a letter that's handwritten to you as opening another email, especially if it's late in the day. That email usually waits till the next day. So follow up or fail. It's a large event. I was listening to something the other day, and the concept of be the first person to thank or email the speaker afterwards. Because how many times is that speaker going to get a thank you or an email after that presentation? That's fine. But if you're the first one, you're the most memorable. So what do you include in that thank you? How I usually do it, it's short. Again, business is brevity. I usually, hey, it was a pleasure meeting you. It was a pleasure having lunch with you. Pleasure, whatever the case is. A quick synopsis. I really enjoyed talking about this or that, or I liked how you just came back from Colorado on a ski trip. I love skiing. Something, somehow tie it, a personal tie back to that conversation. Again, it adds that memorable sake. And then close with some type of a follow-up of, I'd really like to continue our conversation in 2 weeks or whatever that time frame looks like or venue looks like. Again, we're working on building the relationship first before we make any type of withdrawal. That's the mindset that I want everyone to leave with today. Have you ever met someone that you told some details to, and it'd be beneficial in the future to use that, or say they just talked about family or hobbies or what they're looking for out of business? Back when I grew up in El Dorado, and there was a flower store. I don't know if any of you are familiar with Walter's Flowers, but I remember even back to grade school, there were always these little things that they would highlight in the paper newspaper, different things that grade school and middle school kids would do. And, I have a younger brother, so oftentimes one of us was featured in that, probably about 2 or 3 times a year, or then any story that, hey, we made the honor roll or things like that. I don't know what Herald's postal budget cost, but anytime my brother and I, and we had no ties to them at all. It was a local small town thing. And they did this for many, many, many people. But anytime we were featured in that, they would clip it out, write a little card, and then mail it to us. How cool is that? Third graders not buying a whole lot of flowers, but I guarantee that approach when my mom or dad needed to buy flowers for something, whatever the occasion, even though there were multiple flower stores, Walter's Flowers always got the business because they had that impeccable follow-up, that personalized notes and things like that. So how do you actively keep track of information? Outlook actually can do much of this for you. So Jonathan, slide, please. Most other email systems can do the same thing, whether you're using Google or the different types of CRM systems. So what this is a screenshot. This isn't an actual contact of mine just because I didn't want to put contact information up there. But in your Outlook, as you save contacts and save whatever information you want, in the notes section, you can actually take notes. Hey, this person has 2 kids, golden retriever, they like golf, they like climbing, whatever the case may be. That way, when you have that follow-up conversation with them, hey, how was that Colorado trip that you were talking about? Or, hey, I remember it was your your anniversary that you mentioned, or something like that. Whatever you can do to tie that back into like making it personable and memorable. They don't necessarily need to know that you have a note system on them, but if you're the one that remembers their birthday or remembers that their kid's name is Fred or whatever the case may be, it's kind of like that Walter's Flowers example. It sets you apart from the masses. It will help drive business to you because you are staying relevant. They are adding to that know, like, and trust value of you and your organization. You can also set reminders too. So if you go up into tasks, again, this is just a screenshot, but you can play around with it in whatever email system you're using. If you go to task, you can set a reminder. Say this is a person that you really want to have a good relationship with, or think that it can be a valuable business benefit to. Maybe you reach out to them once a month just to check in. Maybe it doesn't amount to anything right off the bat, but that continual follow-up will help keep you top of mind. Maybe it's someone that you don't necessarily need to follow up with once a month. It can be quarterly or even maybe every 6 months or so just to check in. Tons and tons of Outlook reminders on contacts in my Outlook right now. It's a nice thing to do. It's not making it any less efficient. It's helping me out by staying relevant to the people in my network and circles, but it's also giving warm and fuzzies and helping stay relevant. Hope that makes sense. Jonathan, slide, please. Go ahead and see. There you go. We'll just do that for right now. Because we're in the time of COVID and many things virtual, a few high-level things I do want to mention. One's tech familiarity. Most of what I've been talking about so far is in-person networking, and we will get back to that. And you can even, there's aspects that you can still do in-person networking right now, but I'd be remiss if we didn't talk about tech aspects and the nature of COVID in 2020 and all the Zoom calls that we're all on. Excuse me. So some things that help stand you apart from others in a virtual world of networking. Tech familiarity. How many times have we been on a call where someone's on mute or whatever the case may be? That happens. But at this point, we're 6 months, 7 months into COVID. We should have most of the tech things figured out. There's other platforms too. So, if you're a business person in sales, don't just be versed in Zoom. Some of your clients might be on WebEx. Some of it might be on Google. Have at least a baseline knowledge of how to use those systems. So if you have a important conversation or important client that wants to meet last minute, you at least have some basic familiarity of what system it is. I think if you did Zoom, WebEx, and Google Teams, you're probably good to go right now. But there's other options too, such as Remo. It's a platform that the chamber is using for some of our larger events. If any of you all are familiar with our exposure event, because of COVID, we moved that to a virtual platform. And so this Friday is actually our last version of that. It's free to attend. I'd encourage, if you'd like to sit in on that, go to our chamber website and you can look at that. And I'll talk about that a little bit as well. But we're utilizing technology and different platforms to help engage different areas of the community and different lines of business. Also want to talk about backgrounds. I think if you look at my screen, like if I'm moving around, I look very real because this is a real background. How many times have you seen where it's the animated backgrounds where if someone moves, like their hand disappears or their head's all fuzzy and there's like a white line? Virtual backgrounds are fine, but they're not the best. If you have a green screen, you can be very effective at it. If you have a clean screen, looks like most of you have clean screens behind you or a clean workspace, perfectly fine. I want to pull up something real fast. So I was on a call the other day, choose virtual background. And so again, with tech and different platforms, check this out. Okay, so see how as I move, it's a little bit blurry because I don't have a green screen. That's fine. But there's backgrounds where if someone takes their phone out and you hold your phone over my QR code up in the top corner, it actually will pull up my virtual business card. If you have a phone handy, I'll let the screen be for a little bit, scan that, and you have my card now. It's pretty cool. Another background that I like, if anyone likes toilet paper, there you go. What I encourage and caution you is don't have the overly busy backgrounds like this. I was on a call. There we go. Let me get back off that. I was on a call the other day and it looked like someone had a screenshot of a Twin Peaks restaurant and that was their backdrop. In some circles, that might be great. In the platform and what they were talking about, definitely not the best situation. And it was a total detractor. And I know the group that I was sitting with for about the first 5 minutes of the presentation, we were like, is that really their backdrop? I mean, it was animals and what you would normally see at Twin Peaks and everything. So again, not the most productive. Virtual business cards. So that's a cool platform that I will put it in the chat box. I don't have the link up right now, but I will send it in the chat box later. So there's things out there now, virtual business cards that will actually pull up all your contact information. And Jonathan, do you have a hi hello card yet?
No.
I'm putting on. Okay, I'll put it on there later. But again, it'll have your QR code that you can scan. It populates right to your phone, all your email, phone, any of your social handles, things like that. So I'd encourage you to at least have a basic level of familiarity with some of these different new tech tools. And especially because you can actually put your business card on the screen behind you. That's awesome. So just remember, from takeaways from the first part, there's no silver bullet to becoming a great networker, but you can improve your networking skills and help drive dollars back to your business over time by listening, forming strong relationships, giving before talking, and staying in touch. All righty, so Jonathan, I think we're off a slide, but go down to, there we go. Okay, so now I want to transition a little bit and talk about the Chamber and other membership organizations briefly and how these organizations can help get you in front of the right people to help grow your business. Full disclosure, there's other options rather than just the Chamber, but besides being just a little bit biased because I do work for the Chamber, I think you all probably realize that by now, I do truly think we are one of the better and more fully comprehensive options available right now. Each of these that I'm going to talk about high level do have a certain focus point, but I want to highlight a few of the different offerings that there are. Because again, the Chamber might not be the best option for you if you're looking solely for this, or if you look for more something else. Again, I'll help you find the best option, but if we can land with the Chamber, great. So again, the Chambers, in my opinion, and in summary of these different 5, the Chamber is more broad and encompasses advocacy work at the local, state, and federal level. We actually have somewhat of a lobbyist on staff, and then a couple people that work in government relations. Jonathan and his team do great work in the community relations area. We have a young professionals network that caters to our sub 40 Wichitans and helps grow and become more engaged in the community. We offer many different educational and networking opportunities. Some think we only cater to the larger organizations such as Coke and Cargill, but in reality, the vast majority of our members are small businesses with over 70% having fewer than 20 full-time employees. Again, I'll say that again, because again, we do get that a lot. Like, oh, you only cater to Coke and Cargill and large one. No, 70% of our memberships have fewer than 20 full-time employees. So our bread and butter is in these small memberships, and that's where we thrive. So Chamber member or not, like I said before, I'd be happy to sit down with each and every one of you. I'll share my contact information. I think you probably have it from the initial registration page. But if you want to grab lunch, coffee, whatever the case would be happy to sit down, talk with you, learn a little bit more about your business, how I can help. If there's somewhere I can connect you to, that's the part of my job that I enjoy. I truly enjoy connecting people with others, and that's what my passion is. So some other areas and the other organizations I want to talk about real quick. 1 Million Cups, very, very involved with 1 Million Cups. Pre-COVID, this group met every Wednesday at the downtown library. They would hear from 2 different local businesses for about 20 minutes at a time. And then there was a networking component. Awesome group. They're currently doing virtual events only, but I don't think they're as effective as they were when they met in person. We actually remodeled one of our events, what's called our virtual business exchange, off of the 1 Million Cups format. We used to do a in-person business exchange where you could kind of equate it to speed dating, where I'm at one side of the table, you're at the other side of the table. We talk for 5 minutes, we ring a bell. One side of the table gets up and moves to the next table, rinse and repeat. Great way to really interact on a one-on-one level with 50, 60 different people. The last event we had in person, we had 65 different people there at the chamber. And so we actually had to go into a whole second meeting room because it was so well attended. I'm excited to get back to that, hopefully early 2021. But for right now, our events still are virtual. So we've modeled this virtual business exchange to this online platform. WIBA, it's Wichita Independent Business Association, smaller organization, more limited scope and reach, but similar program. Rotary, it's more of a civic engagement networking group. Each meeting they have a speaker who will present a topic or talk about their business. It's a common group that meets regularly. So the nice part with Rotary, it's very community minded, but you also get to know your fellow members very, very well. And then BNI. BNI is Business Networking International. It's an industry-based group, great for leads. I personally think it's a little expensive and very time intensive, but if you are the right type of business and take advantage of it in the right way, you will get a return out of that investment. Again, it's expensive because it starts at about $600 minimum, plus there's a time commitment, but depending on your business, you can get a wealth of leads from that organization. Again, I feel the chamber encompasses a little bit of each of these organizations, as we do have 2 leads groups that are free with membership. As I mentioned, BNI has started about $600 a year. Rotary and events like 1 Million Cups would have a routine people attend each time where we were able to really get to know each other. We have different committees. Our Chamber Champions Ambassador type group is a very close-knit group to help share leads and referrals with each other. WIBA is very similar to the Chamber, but much smaller and limited in scope. They have around 200 members, whereas the Chamber is at currently just over 1,500. And again, regardless of what organization you choose to get involved with, the more you get involved, the more you put in, the more you'll get out in return. We have many companies who are active with us in some fashion, and because of leads generation and networking opportunities, they've significantly increased their revenue and sales. More than happy to talk any question or take any questions before we move into the panel discussion. But with that, I want to thank you all once again for being here, and I will turn it back over to Jonathan.
Thank you, Chevis. Thank you. That was a wonderful job. As someone who does quite a bit of networking myself, I was able to pick up so many different gems that you talked about. I didn't even know Outlook I could do all that. So now, now I got even a new little tech lesson for me to be able to utilize moving forward. So we're going to jump right into our panel, and Chevis is going to help join us for that. And here to introduce our panelists is Darius Wright. Darius Wright from Kansas Business Services.
Jonathan, thank you. Hey, and Chevis, thank you for all that great information on networking. We've got a great panel of great networkers assembled here for our audience that's here live with us now, and for those who might watch in the future. And I want to go ahead and give these individuals their kudos and thanks for participating with us. First, we have Brent Castillo from McGowan Gordon. Excuse me. Brent is the Director of Business Development for McGowan Gordon Construction's Wichita office. He is a lifelong Wichitan and a graduate of Wichita State University, and is passionate about moving our community forward. Brent is specifically helping McGowan expand its already vibrant diversity engagement efforts by working with local leaders to create opportunities for businesses to engage. And upon my review of Brent's LinkedIn, I saw that he's been a VP of communications for a major health care organization, as well as working in journalism with the Wichita Eagle. So definitely has insights to communications and networking. And Brent, we thank you for being here with us today. Also, we have James Barfield, who is proud of bringing Squeegee Squad to Wichita. Mr. Barfield is an entrepreneur and a leader who has various ideas and always cares about what is needed by the community, especially the citizens of Wichita. One form of business that is owned by James Barfield today is Squeegee Squad. Squeegee Squad is the second company that's owned by Mr. Barfield, besides B&W Building Maintenance, which is the parent company of Squeegee Squad. Squeegee Squad is actually offering commercial high-rise window cleaning in the Wichita and Metro Statistical Area. And as one of the only high-rise window cleaning companies in this MSA, Squeegee Squad really understands the necessity for community regarding window treatments in office buildings and other high-rise buildings, and all the other services that they provide to facility and building owners and managers. So we're glad to have Mr. Barfield here with us today, and he's got all his company swag on right now. So he's doing a lot of that networking. And then we want to thank Ms. Latasha McCall from joining us all the way from Kansas City, who is the president and founder of LM2 Construction and Consulting LLC, 100% minority-owned construction and consulting company based in KC-Mo. Born and raised in Kansas City, Latasha has witnessed firsthand the explosive growth of that city into a premier metropolitan area that promotes family values. This deep-rooted tie has allowed her to become one of the most respected and recognized names in construction. Now, before forming her construction and consulting company, she worked for several construction firms in Kansas City's metropolitan area, where she gained a lot of experience in project management, owner representation, and business development. And she also served as a planning commissioner for the city of Blue Springs, Missouri, as a mayoral appointment from 2012 to 2016. Through her commitment to excellence and dedication to professionalism, Latasha strives to exceed industry standards by forming strong professional partnerships based on integrity, ingenuity, and reliability, a commitment that makes up the backbone of LM2 Construction and Consulting LLC. She has a Bachelor of Science in Business Administration from Drake University and is a member of the National Association of Women in Construction. With that, I'd like to turn it over to Mr. Long, who's going to facilitate the conversation. Thank all of our panelists for participating today.
Thank you, Darius. I've got some planned questions here that we're going to use for this session. But if you have any questions, please use the raise your hand feature or type your question in the chat, and we'll be sure to get to that. So my first question is for all of the panelists, and I'd like for you guys to go in the order of the presentation of the slide on the screen to make it a little easier. How have you utilized networking to help you in your business? So one specific example of how you guys have utilized networking to help you in your business. Latasha, we're gonna go with you first.
Okay, that's fine. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank
Okay, good. I just want to make sure. I've used it. It's helped me, especially with my suppliers, and also, gave me the opportunity when I do it, being a general contractor, to also meet other people in the field like architects and engineers. So, but the biggest benefit I utilize it for is just for me to meet other people in the industry, for people to network them, just to network to find out if they're going through the same ups and downs, and especially with this COVID and how they're dealing with it, as a small business. So that's how I utilize it, especially when I'm looking for suppliers. It's really helped me because other people, but sometimes you don't know who certain suppliers are, whether they're Final Clean or whether they're sell doors, hardware. So I've used it for that. It's helped me, meet a lot of different vendors where I wouldn't have known them.
Thank you so much. Brent, how about you?
Well, thanks again for having me on office in Wichita for just under 2 years now, but it's a 20-some-year-old company. But we use it kind of two basic ways. One is to promote our business interests and get to know, much to, like Latasha was saying, get to know other vendors that we could work with, trade partners. And another way we use it is just community engagement. We just want to be a contributor to the communities where we have offices and where we work. So we engage, whether it's a Rotary or the Chamber or whatever organizations seem appropriate or seem vibrant and active. We do look for that when we are trying to decide where to spend our time and money. So that's how we do it. We just to get out and meet folks, and you just never know who you're going to meet if you get out and go to enough events and or create events if there aren't any that are exactly what you need. So.
Thank you, Brent. Mr. Barfield, how have you utilized marketing to help your business?
Well, I've used networking quite a bit. I mean, it's something I've been doing for a long time, even in the previous franchise that I've owned. I say networking has paid off, or is still continually paying off with being a part of the chamber, or a member of BOMA as well. BOMA's been a really good impact for us. And just getting out in the community. I mean, I think networking is something that sometimes we all don't like doing all the time, but it's something that we have to do. I think it's a necessity. So it's something that I definitely picked up some tips there from Chevis as well, especially when it comes to getting birthdays and dogs' names and all that kind of stuff is important, So I appreciate that. So yeah, networking has always been a big piece of what I do.
Thank you. And then Chevis, do you have anything you'd like to add from your presentation, or even anything personally that you've been able to do to use networking?
I mean, the first three really hit it on the head. The biggest thing is, again, staying top of mind. Nowadays, people do business with those they know, like, and trust. So if you can stay relevant and top of mind, that will set you apart from your competition.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that. My next question is specifically for Latasha, and then Brent, feel free to follow up after that. But Latasha, you're a part of the McCown Gordon Mentor Protege program. Can you briefly describe that program, and what made you to decide that that was a good opportunity for you?
I got into the Mentor Protege. I started my company. It'll be 5 years in December. I've been in the construction industry for several years as a business development, project manager, superintendent, kind of all aspects of construction. I thought that I would kind of step out on my own, being a African-American Black female in a dominating man's world. I knew it was going to be tough, but just felt that I could do it. So started my business, like I said, 5 years ago. Then after I've been in it for about 3 years, I think McCown Gordon, they were going to branch out. They wanted to look for a mentor protege, somebody to kind of grow their business and somebody to help. I was looking for somebody that I could lean on, just because I know a lot about construction and I've been on job sites as a superintendent. There's also things that go along with running a business. And I think how to grow my business, how to manage risks, talk about bonding, HR issues, estimating issues. I mean, there's so much that goes along with it. And I think it wasn't a big thing for McCown Gordon just to choose me or me choosing them. It's kind of like dating. I mean, I had to look at their values and, kind of what McCown Gordon, their growth and what it is they're trying to do. And then they had to kind of meet with me several times to find out, kind of about my growth, where LM2 wants to go, and kind of look at my perspective on things. And then, we have to decide, is it a fit? And a lot of people look at mentor protege sometimes as they're going to give me business. And we didn't approach it like that. I probably do just probably 20% of my business with McCown Gordon. Most of my business we do is GC of our own, or we work with other people. But McCown Gordon, just the biggest thing is they help me manage risk. And I'm learning that owning a business is the biggest thing for me, is managing that risk. And also it's been HR issues. Anytime you deal with employees, I've had a lot of HR issues and my growth and my bond and just so many things. So after kind of meeting with them, it wasn't just me picking them or they picking me. It was just something where we met several times and it has to make sense. Sometimes people get into mentor proteges and it doesn't fit. I mean, of what they're doing and what their vision is versus kind of what my vision is and what my company what I want to do, and integrity and growth and also community engagement. So I was born and raised here in Kansas City, Missouri, and kind of where I want to go and what I want to do, and kind of where McAllen Gordon is. I mean, what are they doing in the community? And we partner and do a lot of engagements together in the community, and it's not always about them helping me. Sometimes from my perspective of what I can do to help them as well. My perspective of being an African American. So it's just kind of two sides. And one thing I like about McAllen is they're open-minded to kind of understand sometimes from my perspective and the challenges as an African American woman of what I go through, and how they can just help me be better. Sometimes a better leader, better employer, better in the community. So it's been good.
Wonderful, wonderful. And then Brent, I'm going to ask you because from what I recognize, McAllen Gordon has been doing that mentor protege program in the Kansas City area with some success, thanks to your relationship with Latasha. What is McAllen Gordon currently looking for small businesses here in the Wichita area to kind of replicate some of those same connections and opportunities?
McAllen Gordon is one of the main builders, and regionally we're one of the main builders. We're kind of the new guys in town, but we just finished up the $120 million Children's Mercy Tower. You guys are probably familiar with that hospital in Kansas City. We did the Flint Hills Discovery Center in Manhattan, Prairie Fire Museum in Kansas City. We work on the Garmin headquarters a lot. So just to give you a perspective, we're kind of the 800-pound gorilla in Kansas City. Now we're much smaller than that here, but we have a lot of horsepower, and so bringing that horsepower to this partnership with Latasha was top of mind for our folks in our Kansas City office. What we want to do is take that same energy and bring that to Wichita, and there aren't a lot of venues to do that. Jonathan, we've been talking about it probably close to a year now. How do we engage? James is our KC guys even better, and I've had the privilege to get to knowing her over the past few weeks. We just want to figure out what can work and how do we really make this work here in Wichita. I think we're maybe a little bit behind the curve on this as a community, and how do we push this forward? So that's what I want to figure out tonight, and see what everyone else is thinking about. But I just know that we are willing to bring our resources and people and engage this activity within the community. We're committed to it.
Thank you, Brent. We're having a little trouble with your audio going in and out. But we did hear about you guys being extremely interested in how can we create more opportunities to connect in our community around this topic. So we're excited for that. My next question is my next question is for the group. And how do you all determine what is a good networking opportunity? As Chevis pointed out, I mean, we probably get bombarded with emails around, oh, come to this, come to that. You know, it's going to be a good opportunity for you to network. How do you determine what is a good networking opportunity? And we'll start with you, Mr. Barfield.
Okay. Can you hear me good? Okay. So one thing I've done over the years, I tried to see who all is going to be at the networking event. Ideally you can kind of find out who the attendees are or who's kind of part of the organization to go. So I started doing that, and then so I'm kind of like pre-qualifying, I guess you could say, and I'm finding out the individuals who are going to be there and kind of doing some research on them. So when I do go to the networking event, I kind of know who they are. It's kind of like a sales thing, I guess you could say, from my sales background. But I do want to find out who's going to be there, kind of what they do, what companies, who they represent, and that's kind of how I identify if it's worth me going. And then when I do go, kind of what my goal is.
Thank you for that. Chevis, the chamber obviously has different varieties of networking events, and then you mentioned some of the different organizations. How would you essentially determine what is a good networking opportunity and how you decide what different membership organizations you should be a part of?
Yeah, I would view it through the lens of, similar to James and kind of what I mentioned earlier, if you know the participants that are going to be there, if you look at it, are these contacts that are going to add value back to my organization, or contacts that I'd like to make? Is the return on investment, i.e. time, going to offset actually going to that event? If it is, attend. If it's not, you might look for other networking opportunities. What I mentioned earlier too, of it is what you put into it, or you get out of what you put into it. You got to start somewhere. So if this is a new aspect for you, try it out. It's better to practice some of your networking skills and conversationing with people that might not have a big impact with your business. Allow yourself to grow from that. And then when you do actually go to those networking events that could have some relevance to your business, you're a little more skilled at it. Networking's easy. A lot of times we overthink it, but that's the lens that I would look. Are you getting a return out of your investment of time?
All right. Thank you. And then Latasha, how do you kind of determine what's a good networking opportunity?
For me, it's usually who's hosting it, who's hosting the event and the purpose of the event. That's always been good for me. I mean, who's hosting it? Is it a chamber event? Is it one of the fraternities or sororities, or is it hosted by the city of Kansas City? And then also the purpose of it. I mean, why are we having the event? Is it just a social hour? Are we doing it because we're doing a fundraiser? So that's been big on me, of who's hosting it and the purpose of it. And, is it just a, meeting? Sometimes there's guest speakers, or just kind of the purpose and who's hosting the event I kind of look at that.
All right, wonderful, wonderful. And we've got Mr. Castillo jumping back on, so we'll see real quick if we got a... Brent, we thought we lost you. Can you hear us? All right, we'll just keep on. We'll keep going and see if we can get Mr. Castillo coming back on this next one. James, what do you say to business owners?
All right, I'm back now.
Uh,
Sorry.
Okay, you're just a little delayed, but we'll go ahead and keep moving along. So this next question is from Mr. Barfield. And what do you say to business owners who don't believe they have time to build professional networks?
I think there's no such thing. I mean, you have to make time to, build professional networks. I mean, if you don't do that, then you're not going to grow. Even if you don't get any business out of it, it's just that you can pick up another gym, or you can meet someone else, or something of that nature. So I mean, you have to make time to do that in your schedule. I think there's no way around it.
Wonderful. And again, for those who are participating with us, if you have questions, please use the raise your hand feature, or you could type your question in the chat and we will get to it. My next question is for everyone, and I'd like to know, what are some best practices that you use to maximize your effectiveness when it comes to networking? We're going to start with Mr. Castillo. Mr. Castillo, go right ahead.
All right, can you hear me now?
Real good.
Good. All right. Sorry about that, guys. Technical problems. Probably the first time that's ever happened on one of these. Well, I think it's just really important to engage. Just be out in the community. Be out meeting folks. Have an intent and purpose to know what you're looking for. I think Latasha, I think that would be part of that story. There is she was looking, we were looking, and just through our interactions in the community, we found each other. And that's what we want to do here in Wichita, is just find people that we can work with, help them become better business people, help them, share some of our ways of doing business. We've been a very successful company. How can we bring some of our friends along and help show them the way forward, help them avoid some of the mistakes we made? And just being really intentional about that. So we will be out and about in the community. We will be in areas, we'll be joining panels like this. I want to be part of, and McCown Gordon wants to be part of helping you, Jonathan, as you and some of the city leadership and business leaders find ways to improve our engagement between small businesses, disadvantaged businesses, and large businesses like ourselves in the community. So I think it's just being out, being available.
Wonderful, thank you. Latasha, what do you got? What are some of your best practices that you guys have used, that you've used?
I don't know. I think it's just being honest about that has just worked for me. Just, being honest, like I was with McCown Gordon, like I am with all of my suppliers, all of my vendors, is I'm just kind of upfront and honest about what it is I'm looking for, and then just finding out what it is that they're looking for, and then be honest about what you want to get out of the relationship. So I think it's just kind of putting everything out there, and I think it just kind of works because when I'm looking for a certain vendor or whatever, I kind of find out different products maybe that he uses. I mean, are we going with all green, or, what he uses, and then what my owners expect. So I think it's just the best practice for me is just being honest and straightforward about my needs and their needs, and what it is that, I'm looking for versus them, and really about how we can help one another. And sometimes it doesn't always fit, but I think if you're open and honest about that, I think it just kind of works, as you're kind of upfront about what it is you want and your expectations, and vice versa.
Thank you. Chevis, would you kind of talk a little bit about, because we talked about being honest in that and knowing your needs. Could you expand a little bit from what you talked about earlier with being able to know that maybe your networking today might not benefit tomorrow, but 3 years, 2 years, or whatever the case may be, how you can continue to have those conversations and building that relationship, even if it's not an immediate benefit.
Absolutely. Again, I would almost look at it similar to what Brent and Latasha's partnership is. It's if you're putting the time and resources and effort into helping your fellow community citizens, not even necessarily competition, but others in the local area, help them grow, that will return 100% in dividends down the road. You can't approach those networking conversations that I mentioned. If you're attending an event with the sole purpose and focus of, hey, what contact or what can you do for me next week? You're looking at it wrong. It needs to be a long-term plan, long-term play, and view it in the eyes and lens of how can I first help this person? Again, putting deposits into that piggy bank before you make that withdrawal. That's how I would look at it.
All right. Thank you. And then James, how do you maximize your effectiveness?
Well, I kind of almost want to, don't sound cliche, but I definitely want to piggyback on that. That's a good analogy of, making those investments, and then you can, and I like golf too. So it's like playing the long game, right? So you got to play 18 holes. It's not a short game. And then have that mindset. I mean, and you're right. It may not come back right now. I mean, they come back next year. I mean, there's relationships that's now starting to mature that, 4 years ago I was still trying to build. So I kind of agree with what was just stated as well.
Thank you. Brent, I have a question for you. How can smaller companies connect with larger entities to build those relationships?
Well, I think right now what we're trying to do in Wichita specifically, and again, based on our relationship with Latasha and some of the other partners we have in our Kansas City office, just being available. I and anyone that you see out and about in the community, especially our leadership team, are actively looking for partners. And, I want to just reiterate and reinforce what Latasha said and about the honesty. When we have a conversation, it's so important just to I don't need your marketing pitch necessarily. You can tell me what you do, but just tell me what can you really do? I mean, if you tell me you can do everything, I don't believe it. But if you tell me what you're really good at, then it gives me an idea on how you can fit in to a project and to a partnership and things like that. So just that honesty is really, really important. And if there's a weak spot, maybe you're horrible at accounting or something, maybe there's some way we can help you introduce you to somebody to help bolster that, or maybe even have one of our folks help you out to kind of, we see that a lot in our business, kind of small trade partners that are maybe good masons, but they're horrible bookkeepers. And so they're struggling. They can't be there on time because they're just not organized. Just be honest, give us something to work with. Okay, you're a good craftsman, but let us help you build that business side up. I think that might be a little bit of what Latasha's getting at. Not that she's needed that help specifically, but there's always just little gaps in a business as you're smaller. And just being honest, and we're looking for that when we're out and about. Always looking for better partners or to expand our team. And I think any healthy company wants to meet good people and work with good people.
Thank you. We had a question from the chat from Darius, so I'm going to pose that to the group, starting with Mr. Barfield. What's your biggest networking turnoff?
Biggest networking turnoff. Interesting. I it's fun. I actually do have a lot of turnoffs, I guess, when it comes to networking. So thanks for that, Darius. That question wasn't on the sheet. So so some of my turnoffs. Maybe when it's not, I would say when it's not organized. There's some networking I don't participate in because I'm not really networking with the individuals that I need to. I would say sometimes that's a turn off. I don't think that's by design. I think that's just something that it may not be the actual networking I need to go to. I mean, I think I find that happen a lot. I mean, I don't need to participate in every single networking event. Kind of like Miss Latasha was stating, I don't need to go to. So there's certain things I need to participate in. So if there's something that I don't need to participate in or be involved with, then maybe that's a personal turnoff for me. If that answers your question.
I put myself on mute. Latasha, if you'll go next, what are some of what is maybe your biggest networking turnoff?
Is that when I go to an event, we're a GC and I meet somebody, a company, and we're networking, and I say, what is it that you do? I do everything. You do? Yep, I can paint. We can do this. We can do this. We can do this. What is it that you're looking for on that project? We can do that. So that is a huge turn off. I immediately just, I kind of run because he can do everything. He can do drywall. He says he's great at everything. And we walk away and I bring his card back and I give it to my estimator and he goes, what is this card? And I said, just locking me in. This guy says he can do everything. He said, everything. That's what he said. So that's a big turn off, is that when you go to an event, somebody tells you can do everything. For us, even though we're general contractors, we self-perform finish, trim, and painting. So people think, say carpenters, yes, I have 14 carpenters, but we just do finish trim. That means we do not do drywall. We do not do concrete. When you say, when you get into having carpenters, there's all sorts of things. But what we do that we self-perform is painting and finish trim. So we don't do drywall, we don't mud, we don't tape, we don't do concrete, we don't frame, we don't, so that's my biggest turn off, is you ask somebody what it is you do and they tell you at an event that they are great at everything.
Yeah, being able to accurately discuss, kind of what your specialties are very important
Exactly.
when presenting yourself to other companies. Chevis, what are some things that you've seen or have experienced that are just really is a really big turn off as far as networking goes?
So two that instantly come to mind, and one's been pretty well fleshed out, but the authenticity anymore, it's tough to hide behind an inauthentic veil. People are going to read through that. The other thing is, I mentioned in my presentation earlier, there's kind of that golden rule of talk and listen, the 60-40, if you want to look at it that way. Sometimes you get in those networking conversations and it might be a 99-1. And it's like, please stop talking. Yes, they should talk more than you, but not a continuous nonstop talk, and you really can't get a word in. So those would be the two that come to mind.
All right, wonderful. And then Mr. Castillo, what are some of the things that, as from a bigger company perspective, that kind of turn off larger companies?
When they run out of alcohol. I'm just teasing. That is, I'm teasing. I think I put this in the chat. When somebody's looking for that bigger fish in the room and they're just not engaging, it's insincere conversation. There's lots of ways companies can connect, and I think we need to look at it not so much how can each interaction, what can I gain from it, but I think the people I value most are people that connect people. Maybe they have nothing to gain, but they'll introduce me to a friend that does have something that might benefit me. And then I have to be reciprocal in that way and say, hey, I can't benefit from this, but I'm introducing someone else that I think you might really like to meet. And so when people are only looking to see the most important person, or the person that can potentially get them a bigger paycheck or make them some money, those are the people that really are turn off to me. Because it's I don't want to work with people like that are always just looking for an advantage in a situation. I want to work with people that are trying to help everybody, rise, all boats rise together, kind of an attitude. So, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. And that's a great segue to our question from Mark Daniels. Mark asks, how do food-related companies establish relationships with companies that may, on the surface, seem unrelated, such as construction and et cetera? So who would like to jump in and start that?
I can start, and maybe Latasha could jump in, or anybody. Well, we host a lot of events, and we are always providing food, or we'll have what we call lunch and learns in our business, where we bring in, I don't know if you're talking about restaurant food or like food service. I'm assuming it's restaurant oriented, but we're always having food at events. Construction is way bigger than just putting, bricks and mortar together. There's a lot of activities that we do, especially a company like ours that's very community oriented. So yeah, I would say every week we probably spend a few $100s at least, and just in our Wichita office, just on food, either catering it or bringing it to somewhere. And it's a very important part of what we do. Does that get at what you were asking? I'm not sure.
So that was one answer. Anybody else have anything that they would like to follow up with?
I would kind of echo too, just again, with the long-term vision in mind. You never know when, say you have a catering contract for an unrelated business that you might not have for 6 months, but if you have some type of a relationship with, and you're still staying top of mind, again, the whole premise of earlier, you might get that contact. So I think there is always a relation in the mix or cards somehow.
All right, wonderful, wonderful. And again, we're about to end with our facilitated questions. So again, if you have any questions, please use the raise your hand feature or use in the chat. My next question is for everybody on the panel, and this one isn't on the sheet. So James, I'll go last to you since this one ain't on the sheet. What has been your biggest takeaway in terms of how you've been able to utilize marketing? How you've been able to utilize networking that's paid off in a way that you weren't expecting? So what's kind of been one of those aha moments that you've had in a networking opportunity? No, we'll start with Chevy. So we'll let the master go first, and then we'll let everybody else follow up.
Oh boy, thanks, Jonathan. I would say the thing that's been both as unexpected, if you will, but also rewarding, is the more of these events that you go to, and the more you get out in the community, and regardless of what, and the chamber is kind of in a unique position because we're not necessarily selling at some of these events. It's more expanding the relation and network that we have. And again, as I mentioned before, that's the part of my job that I love so much, is just connecting with others and finding some way of, hey, I know you're looking for this. There's a person over here that actually does that, or they have a connection to it. The more, every time I get out and meet someone new, it just adds to that Rolodex. And so when issues come up or things come up, or I get asked about, hey, who do you know for this? One, it's a great feeling of being able to help someone, but there's so many cool things that you learn about that are going on in Wichita at all these different networking opportunities and engagements. I think that's the awesome part of our community people are very willing to share that. They're willing to help other people out, and they don't keep things so tight to the vest that, their authentic self is coming through. And I think the more you get out there, the more you realize that.
Thank you, Chevis. Brent, what about you?
So what have I done in the past that's worked? Was that the
Yeah. So what's kind of been like one of your biggest aha from a networking moment that maybe something that happened that you weren't expecting to happen, but because of networking, you've seen it create success?
Well, I'm going to step back in time in my career. I was a vice president, part owner of an architecture firm, but I oversaw our federal program. We worked for the Army Corps of Engineers, and I developed that from scratch. And it was a lot of what Chevis was talking about earlier. I went to meetings or conferences where 3,000 people, I knew 3. And so you just have to engage in those groups and can be pretty proactive to make those successful. But as that worked, I was lucky and things started kind of panning out. But especially like in the federal market, you have check marks for different minority-owned type businesses, women-owned, disadvantaged, 8A, and it was a lot of fun just getting to meet people that kind of run in different circles and trying to pull a team together. I'd pull teams together for projects that were 15, 20 teams deep from all over the country, from all over socioeconomic backgrounds, and that was a lot of fun. We won a lot of significant contracts. Now at McCown Gordon, I'm looking for opportunities to pull that together. Of course, COVID's just kind of messed everything up, man. It's just horrible. It's just hard. I mean, we can get to talk here, and I appreciate this venue. It's nice to have that, but I love to golf. I'm horrible at it, but I love it. I like to create opportunities to get together and just get to know people. And that's the thing I like about golf and events like that, where you have time to engage and you can see, are they the throw their sticks in the pond kind of person, or can they make a bad shot and still be able to be talked to? I love receptions and things like that, where we can really just get a little bit of downtime and kind of cut loose a little bit and kind of learn what motivates some of the people and meet their friends. And that's what's worked great for me and built pretty significant networks that way.
Wonderful. Miss McCall, what was an opportunity that you kind of found an aha moment from your networking journey? I think you're on. Oh, there you go.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I think when you say networking, it's not always going to an event. Don't forget about social media and don't forget about your website, because both of those have kind of worked for me. My aha moment was last year I went to an NAACP event. And yes, there was a networking part of it, but I had met a lady there who wasn't actually from Kansas City. She was actually from, I think she was Birmingham, Alabama. But my aha moment is just kind of networking with her. I didn't know who possibly she knew. And to get a call from Cheryl McKissick out of New York City, she's the largest Black-owned female general contractor in the United States, for her to pick up the phone and call me, from her meeting, her being friends with a lady at an NAACP event, and for her to go to my website to call me to network with me, it was definitely an aha moment, because Cheryl McKissick is definitely she's several generations, but the largest Black female woman-owned general contractor in the United States. So that's my aha moment, for her to just take the time to Google me and my company and somebody to tell her about me and for her to just, you know, for me to meet her. So that was my aha moment.
Wow, that's amazing. That's one of those things where Curtis Whitten has taught us that it's not just who you know, it's who knows you. So being able to have those types of relationships, and again, if you had never stepped out and spoke to her, then that moment doesn't happen for you. That's outstanding. So again, we want to make sure that we're maximizing every one of these opportunities that we get to introduce ourselves to somebody. So now, all right, James, we gave you some time. So now we go to you.
Okay, I appreciate that, Jonathan. I say a few aha moments that I've had definitely recently, probably the last year. From the past networking and just kind of being out and beating the pavement. I know that, earlier this year I got a call from one of the largest oil companies in Kansas, and also they own a lot of commercial properties in Kansas, and now we do all their buildings in Wichita, Murphy Inc. And they're huge, and someone reached out to me, and it's just from years of networking, and that's been a great relationship thus far. And also we have a relationship with Garmin up in Olathe, Kansas, and we take care of all their property there, along with Squeedy Squad in Kansas City. But this is just, that's been about a year in the making with that as well. So that's all from just networking and just beating the pavement, and then that created that aha moment. So
Wonderful, wonderful. Oh man, that was great. Those are all great stories to kind of just justify that this works. And sometimes even when you feel like you don't want to be bothered, or I don't want to talk to anybody else, you never know how what'll lead to that next big thing, and not just when. When those things will happen. So before we get ready to close, I just want to open the floor up for any final comments that any of our panelists would like to make. Chevis, we'll start with you.
Final comments, I would say any reservations you have about networking, get out of your head. Try it. If you need a partner of, hey, you're afraid of going to an event and looking silly or asking the wrong questions, call me. I'll go with you. I don't care. I enjoy doing this stuff. So I will be your networking buddy if that's what it takes to get you out of your head. Once you see it, I fully believe that it's once you start doing it and you realize how easy and rewarding and beneficial it is, you will add it to your business repertoire of things to do and things to do intentionally. So again, shared my contact earlier up in the this chat screen somewhere. It's that hi, hello card. Give me a call, shoot me an email. I'd be glad to take anyone out for lunch or grab drinks or coffee, something like that. But again, thank you everyone for being here today. And Jonathan, thank you and your team for putting it on. And I'd be remiss if I didn't say congratulations in person, Christina, to the book. Glad you could join us now too. So
thank
excited
you.
for you.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Chevis. Ms. McCall, what final comments would you like to add?
One is with this COVID-19 and everything that's kind of going on in the world, especially with small businesses and stuff. My thing is just don't ever give up and ever give up on your dream. Just keep being honest with yourself, and those of you that are looking for a partner or a mentor, protege partner, like anything else, take your time. Remember that it's got to be a fit for you and them, and just make sure that your goals and where it is you're trying to go and what you're trying to achieve, that they kind of understand that, because I've seen a lot of people get into mentor proteges and get into relationships where, it became a disaster. And that's because both parties weren't honest with each other about where you want to take your business and where you want to go. But, right now is just, continuing to be positive and hang in there. We're all small businesses right now. And, I think, we're all going through the same thing. So, I'm open. Anybody wants to reach out to me and just need a little positive, definitely. When it's over, shoot me an email. You know, um, Even as a general contractor, I think I go through things every day. I'm just blessed to have McAllen Gordon. They've been a real mentor to me. I've learned so much from them on a business standpoint, and I think they've helped me minimize risk. That's the biggest thing they've helped me do. So through COVID and everything, we're still going strong. I mean, just helping me figure that all business isn't good business. So all projects that I take on, not all of them were good. So they helped me realize that sometimes all money is not good money.
Thank you for that. And that, and it sounds like you all have found that sweet spot of them learning from you as well as you learning from them. And I think that's important in any networking situation, especially any type of mentor and protege relationship. So thank you, Ms. McCall. Mr. Castillo, your final comments.
All right. Sorry about my technical problems today. I think what I would like to see is just us push through. Let's get something done here. Let's move the ball forward and create a way of engaging. Let's have our civic leadership, our city, our county. Let's set some goals and help facilitate this. That'll be one way to motivate us is just set the goals. And when you win a contract, you have to engage folks. I don't think that's the long-term play. The long-term play should be, let's just do it because it's the right thing to do. And I want to see that happen. If we need to help businesses get certified, let's figure out how do we get that certified? Who certifies them? Let's get the education out there. And if it doesn't exist, let's encourage our community leaders to set these parameters in place so we can move this forward. So I'm just excited about doing this, and I just hope everyone just stays engaged. Next time we do this, let's have triple this amount of people listening in, and let's get together and start building this network just to make this happen and keep it moving forward.
Yes, most definitely, Mr. Castillo. I think that as we continue to engage more people and grow our efforts, we will see tenfold the production from those efforts. And then, Mr. Barfield, your final comments.
Well, first I'd like to thank Jonathan Chevis and the Chamber for allowing me to participate in this, and it was definitely insightful. I learned a lot, and want to be more a part of this. Even just listening as an attendee, I mean, it's something that people can take away from, take some kind of jewels away, and it's definitely important for this community, and as we continue to grow this, and so I'm just thankful to be here and look forward to more webinars such as this.
Well, I'd like to thank our panelists for participating and for being willing to answer the call, because we've got a lot of opportunity moving forward in the rest of 2020 and then 2021. And we don't take your time for granted, as we know that as we continue to move this message forward, it's going to take all of us in different positions to be able to make headway in this. So thank you all again for participating and for all the knowledge that you dropped for our session today. So, you know, this is our third by design. And one of the things that we've recognized throughout this is there's been a lot of different opportunities to engage different diverse business owners and things of that nature. And those opportunities are not stopping. We've got plenty of good opportunities coming up. One of which I'm going to let Christina from the Create campaign discuss. Christina?
Thank you very much for allowing our audiences to dovetail tonight. Want to definitely invite those who are able to join us for the final installment of the Wichita Entrepreneurship and Innovation Series. As we know, this series is brought to us for free by Burns & McDonnell, Apparici Constructors, and Evergy. We'll be listening to Dr. Fred McKinney and also his guest, Dr. Gerald James of Yale University from BJM Solutions. This series has been phenomenal. In addition to the series, they also provide one-on-one consulting through office hours, and that has been a gem as well. So registration is free. It's available at wichitasupplierdiversity.com. Thank you for the time.
All right. Thank you. Another opportunity to engage. Again, we could not do events like this for free without our wonderful sponsors. So again, I'd like to thank Evergy, Spirit Aerosystems, Koch, Cargill, and Cox for their support of the Chamber's Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion programming, which is brought to you our By Design series. And then before we sign off, I want to invite Darius and Christina to just give any words that they would like to in their help in and I want to thank them for their help in providing the information for this series and really helping to make sure that we provided such great information. So I'm going to invite Darius and then Christina to speak just on anything that they would like to talk about that they've been able to do through this By Design series.
Thank you again for everybody participating tonight. You know, this has been something that myself and Christina and Jonathan have been working on across multiple platforms for at least the last year and a half, 2 years, finding every chance we can get together to help promote services and education and training for underserved business communities, people who usually aren't participating in contracting opportunities, procurement opportunities with larger businesses. And we wanted to share the same message that Mr. McCall had shared, was that, you know, you can do this, don't give up. And we've talked about financing. We talked about, you know, how to share your story. We've talked about marketing and advertising. And now tonight with the idea of networking. So it's been a pleasure to be here to see all the people. Create campaigners have been coming through. People from other parts of the state have been coming through, and it's just been great to see that participation. I know that this isn't it. Jonathan's got other things that he's working. Christina, you know, the head of Create Campaign, this is her work, you know, all the time. And so anything that we can ever do to support those business owners, larger businesses, the wider community at participating and just being successful. Entrepreneurship is hard and it's not for everybody. So for people who are committed and dedicated to doing it, we want you to feel supported and encouraged. So again, thank you all for your participation throughout this series.
Thank you. And I'll be brief. I'll just echo everything that Darius has said. And I also do want to thank Jonathan and Darius for the lending of your time and expertise to cultivate such a divine series, because it has been with the level and quality of information that's been presented. As you all have alluded to, it would have been great to be able to see a number more people take advantage of these resources. And many of them are catching them on the replays, but to be able to take time out of your schedule to invest and pour into yourself, it is noted and it is appreciated. This work doesn't stop because the webinar ends. We'll continue to keep these connections going with our new network. Brent, we go back to Eagle Days. It's good to see you in this new role.
Yeah, it's good seeing you, Christina.
Absolutely. And I thank you very much for, again, not just saying that you want to be engaged with Wichita's community, but you're demonstrating it over and over again. If people walk away from this series uninspired, whether they catched it live or on the replays, that's their fault. We brought it. Thank you so much.
Again, I want to echo the statements that were just made, and then thank our panelists again for all of the information. I've put my email address in the chat if you need it. If you have any questions or it may want to make any comments, or if you need anything, please feel free to shoot me an email. One of our goals is to continue to connect business owners to the information and knowledge that they need to be more successful. So we want to continue to do that. Thank you again, Chevis, for your wonderful presentation and for everything that you've been able to do from a chamber perspective to help include and engage our new, especially our diverse membership, in how to utilize the chamber to help make themselves more successful in their goals. So again, thank you all for joining us. Brent, I look forward to joining you in that golf outing. We got to make that work.
Hey, you guys let me know. We'll put it together, man. That's I love doing stuff like that, and it's on the house, man. You guys just tell me when.
So now we got it. So look, networking at its finest. We putting it to practice.
That's right.
Putting it to practice. So thank you all for joining us. And until next time, you guys have a wonderful night.
Thank you. It's nice meeting everyone. Thanks, Latasha.
Thanks.